your biology subject matter expert from memoneet. And in this video, we will be covering the chemical coordination and integration. So, our endocrine glands and hormones, right? So, they're the one which actually releases this chemical hormones. And we will also learn their specific function. So, endocrine glands, they are lac ducts and are hence they are actually the ductless glands. So the major thing or function is they actually secrete the hormones. So the classical definition of the hormones as a chemical product produced by a endocrine gland, and they have been released into the blood and transported to the distal located target organ, and has a current significant definition as the hormones or non-nutrient chemicals which act as an intercellular messenger and are produced in track amount, that is minimal amount. So therefore it covers a number of new molecules in addition to the hormones secreted by organized endocrine gland. So invertebrate possesses very simple endocrine system with very few limited hormones, where large number of chemicals act as a hormones and provides coordination in the vertebrates. So the human endocrine system has been described as the endocrine gland and hormone producing diffused tissue cells located in different parts of our body. So they constituents what? An endocrine system. So we have pineal gland, then the pituitary gland, then this thyroid, adrenal gland, pancreas, parathyroid, thymus, and gonads, which actually consist of testis in male and ovary in the female. They are organized endocrine bodies in our body. In addition to this, some other hormones, example, gastrointestinal tract, then liver, kidney, heart also produces certain hormones which we are going to discuss. Coming with the hypothalamus, it contains several group of neurosecretory cells. They are called as nuclei, which produces an hormones, and these hormones regulates the synthesis and secretion of what? Pituitary hormones. So, however, the hormones produced by the hypothalamus are of two types. One is releasing hormones, which actually stimulates the secretion of the pituitary hormones, and the inhibiting hormones, which inhibit the secretion of the pituitary hormones. For example, we have hypothalamic hormones, which are actually called as gonadotropic releasing hormones, which is GnRH, stimulates the pituitary synthesis and releases of the gonadotropins. On the other hand, we have somatostatin from the hypothalamus. It actually inhibits the releasing of this growth hormone from the pituitary. That means growth hormone is released by the pituitary gland, and after certain age, so that is then we have the somatostatin hormones, which actually inhibits the release of the growth hormone from the pituitary, and it is situated in the hypothalamus. So these hormones originates in the hypothalamic neurons passing through the axon and are released from the nerve ending. Clear? Then these hormones reaches the pituitary glands through the portal circulatory system and regulates the functions of this anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary that you are seeing. So this is the anterior pituitary and this is the posterior pituitary is under the direct neural regulation of the hypothalamus. Then we have the pituitary gland. So the pituitary gland that you are seeing here is located in a bony cavity that is actually called as sella turcicae and is attached to the hypothalamus by a stalk. It is divided anatomically into an adenohypophysis and the neurohypophysis, where adenohypophysis consists of two portions, pars distal and the par intermediate. So the pars distans region of the pituitary, commonly called as anterior pituitary, produces the growth hormones and then the prolactin, then thyroid stimulating hormones, then adrenocorticotropic hormone, then luteinizing hormone, and the follicle stimulating hormone. Then the pars intermediate media secretions, only one hormones that are called as melanocyte stimulating hormones. And in humans, the pars intermediate media is almost merged with pars distance. Then we have is neurohypophysis, which is pars nervosa, also known as the posterior pituitary, stores and releases two hormones. One is oxytocin and vasopressin, which are actually synthesized by the hypothalamus and are transported axonally to the neurohypophysis. So oversecretion of the GH stimulates abnormal growth of the body, leads to the gigantism, gigantism, and low secretion of the growth hormone released result in the stunned growth, resulting in the pituitary draftness. So excess secretion of this growth hormones in adult, especially in the middle age, can result in several dysfunctionment, especially in the face, which is actually called as acromegaly, which may lead to the serious complications and premature death also. So the disease is hard to diagnose in the early stage and often goes undetected for many years until changes in the external features becomes notable. Prolactin releases the growth of the mammalian gland and formation of the milk in them. Then we have TSH stimulates the testosterone hormones synthesis and secretion of the thyroid stimulating hormones, which stimulates the synthesis and secretion of the thyroid hormones from the thyroid gland. Then we have ACTH, which stimulates the synthesis and secretion of what steroid hormones, which is actually called as glucocorticoids from the adrenal cortex. Then we have LH and FSH stimulates the gonadal activity, as hence it is actually called as gonadotropins, right? So whereas in male, what happens? This LH hormones stimulates the synthesis and secretions of other hormones, that is androgen from the testes. Whereas in male, FSH and androgen regulates the spermatogenesis. In female, this LH hormone induces the ovulation of fully matured follicles, that is Graafian follicle, and maintains the corpus luteum, formed from the lineaments of the Graafian follicles after ovulation. Then we have FSH stimulates the growth and development of the ovarian follicle in the female, where MSH acts on the melanocytes, which is melanin containing cells, and regulates the pigmentation of our skin. So oxytocin, coming to the oxytocin, it acts on the smooth muscles of our body, and that is actually going to stimulates their contraction. In female, it stimulates a vigorous concentration of the uterus at the vigorous contraction of the uterus at the time of the childbirth, and milk ejection from the mammalian gland. Then we have as vasopressin acts mainly at the kidney and stimulates the responses of water and electrolyte by the distal tubules, and thereby reduces the loss of water through a urine. Hence, it is also called as antidiuretic hormone, that is ADH, and impairment affecting synthesis or release of the ADH, that is antidiuretic hormone, result in the diminished ability of the kidney, to conserve water, leading to water loss and dehydration. This condition is actually called as diabetic insipidus. Clear? Then we have the pineal gland here. So the pineal gland, which is actually located in the dorsal side of the forebrain, pineal, it actually secretes an hormone called as the melatonin, and it plays a very important role in regulating 24-hour cycle, that is rhythm of our body. Like it maintains the normal rhythm of sleep-wake cycle, body temperature, and in addition, what happens? The melatonin also influences the metabolism, pigmentation, and the menstrual cycle, as well as the our defense capacity. Then we have the thyroid hormone. So thyroid gland is composed of two lobes which are located on either side of the trachea, and both of the lobes are interconnected with the thin flap of the connective tissues that are called as isthmus. And the thyroid gland is composed of the follicles and stomach tissues. And each thyroid follicle is composed of follicular cell enclosing a cavity. And these follicular cells synthesize two hormones. One is T4 hormone, that is thyroxine, and the T3 hormone. Then iodine is essential for the normal rate of this hormone synthesis in the thyroid, and deficiency of the iodine in our diet resulting in the hypothyroidism and enlargement of this our thyroid gland, commonly called as goiter. So hypothyroidism during the pregnancy cause because of the defective development and maturation of the growing baby, leading to the stunning growth, then mental retardness, low intelligence, then abnormal skin, deaf mutism, and many other. So whereas in adult women, this hypothyroidism may causes the menstrual cycle to become irregular, and due to cancer of this thyroid gland or due to the development of the nodules of the thyroid gland, the rate of synthesis and secretion of this thyroid hormones is increased to abnormal high level, leading to the conditions called hyperthyroidism, which adversely affects the body physiology. Then thalamic goiter is a form of the hypothyroidism characterized by enlargement of the thyroid gland, prostration of the eyeball, then increase in the basal metabolic rate, and the weight loss, also which is called as Graves' disease. Then thyroid hormones play an important role in the regulation of the basal metabolic rate. This hormones also supports the process of red blood cells formation. Thyroid hormones control the metabolism of the carbohydrates, proteins, as well as the fat. So, maintenance of water and electrolyte balance is also influenced by thyroid hormones. And the thyroid glands also secretes a protein hormones called thyrocalcitonin, which regulates the blood calcium level. The next we have is parathyroid gland. So in humans, four parathyroid glands are present on the backside of the thyroid glands, as you can see in the figure. So one pair each in the two lobules of the thyroid gland, and the parathyroid gland secretes a peptide hormones that are actually called as PTH, that is parathyroid hormone. And the secretion of this parathyroid hormone is regulated by the circulating level of the calcium ions, and this parathyroid hormones increases the calcium level in the blood, and this PTH acts on the bone and stimulates the process of bone resorption. Then the PTH also stimulates the reabsorption of the Ca2 plus by renal tubules and increases the Ca2 plus absorption from the digestion food. That is thus clear that this parathyroid hormones is a hyperglycemic hormone, that is it increases the blood calcium level. Along with this is TCH, it also plays a significant role in calcium balance in the body. So next we have is thymus. So the thymus gland is a lobular structure located between the lungs, behind the sternum on the ventral side of the aorta, and it plays a major role in developing of our immune system. This gland secretes the peptide hormones that are called as thymosin, and plays a major role in the differentiation of T lymphocytes, which provide a cell-mediated immunity. And in addition to this, it also promotes the production of antibodies to provide the humoral immunity. Thymus is degenerated in the old individual, resulting in the decreased production of the thymus. As a result, the immune response of the old person also becomes weak. Next, we have is adrenal gland, and our body has one pair of adrenal gland, one at the anterior part of each kidney. The gland is composed of two types of tissues. So the central located tissue is actually called as adrenal medulla. Uh, then the outside is actually called as adrenal cortex, like this. So under production of the hormones by the adrenal cortex alters the carbohydrates metabolism, causing the acute weakness, and a kind of which may lead to the diseases called as uh, Addison's diseases. Right. So this adrenal medulla secretes two hormones, which is called as adrenaline or epinephrine, and noradrenaline or norepinephrine. So these are the two common thing, and they are commonly called as cata. Uh, Colamins. Okay, so where this adrenaline and noradrenaline are rapidly secreted in response to stress of any kind and during emergency situation, so they are called emergency hormones or hormones for fight and flight. Then these hormones increases what alertness and you know pupillary dilation, then raising of face, which is actually called as goosebumps, and sweating, etc. Both these hormones increases the heartbeat and strength of the heart contraction and the rate of respiration. Then we have that is catecholamines also stimulates this breakdown of the glycogen, resulting in the increased concentration of the glucose in the blood. In addition, they also stimulates the breakdown of lipids as well as the protein. So this adrenal cortex can also be divided into three layers. One is called zona reticular reticularis, that is inner layer. Then zona, what do you say that fasciculata, which is middle layer, and zona glomerulosa, that is the outer layer. So here the adrenal cortex secrete many hormones, commonly called as corticoids, and they which are involved in the carbohydrate metabolism, they are actually called as glucocorticoids. So in our body, this cortisol is the main glucocorticoids, and this corticoids which regulates the balance of water and electrolyte in our body, they are called as uh, mineral uh, mineralocorticoids. Okay, so then this aldosterones is the major mineralocorticoids in our body. Then we have glucocorticoids, stimulates the gluconeogenesis, which is the what do you say that lipid lipolysis as well as the proteolysis, and it inhibits the cellular uptake and utilizes this amino acids. Then we have this cortisol is also involved in maintaining the cardiovascular system as well as the kidney function. Then the glucocorticoids, particularly cortisol, produces the anti-inflammatory reaction and suppressions or suppresses the immune response, and cortisol stimulates the RBC production. Then aldosterone acts mainly at the renal tubules and stimulates the reabsorption of Na plus and water and excretion of K plus and phosphate ions. Thus, uh, aldosterone helps in maintenance of the electrolytes, body fluid volume, osmotic pressure, as well as the blood pressure. Then the small amount of this androgenic steroids are also secreted by this adrenal cortex, which plays a very important role in the growth of the axial hair, pubic hair, facial hair during the puberty. Then we have that is pancreas. Next, coming to the pancreas. So, pancreas is a composite gland which act as both exocrine or endocrine gland. So, this endocrine pancreas consists of islets of Langerhans. So, there are about 1 to 2 million islets of Langerhans in a normal human pancreas, representing only 1 to 2% of this pancreatic tissue. And the two main types of cell in this are actually alpha and alpha cells and beta cells. So where this alpha cells, and the beta cells. So alpha cells secrete a hormone which is actually called as glucagon, where this beta cell secretes the insulin. So here, this glucagon is a peptide hormones, and it plays a very important role in maintaining the normal blood glucose level. Then the glucagon acts mainly on the liver cells and stimulates the genolysis, so resulting in an increased blood sugar level. And in addition to it, the hormone stimulates the process of the gluconeogenesis, which also contributes to hypoglycemia. And the glucagon reduces the cellular glucose uptake and utilization. Thus, the glucagon is hyperglycemic hormone. So this is one way. So the next one is the insulin, which is peptide hormones, which also plays a major role in the regulation of the glucose homeostasis. And insulin acts as mainly on the hepatocytes as well as adipocytes, which is adipose tissue, and enhances what cellular glucose uptake and utilization. As a result, there is a rapid movement of the glucose from the blood to hepatocytes and the adipocytes, resulting in the decreased blood glucose level. And insulin also stimulates the conversion of the glucose to glycogen in the target cells. And this glucose homeostasis in blood is thus maintained, joined by two insulin as well as glucagons. Then the prolonged hypoglycemia leads to the complex disorder called diabetic mellitus, which is associated with loss of the glucose through urine and formation of the uh, harmful compounds known as the ketanone bodies. And the diabetic patients are successfully treated with the insulin therapies. The next we have is testis, which is a pair present in the sac, that is scrotal sac, which is outside the abdomen of the male individual. And the testis performed dual functions as a primary sex organ as well as the endocrine glands. Then the testis is composed of the seminiferous tubules and the stromal or intestinal tissues. Then we have the Leydig cells, which are an interstitial cells, which are present in the interstitial tubular space, produce a group of hormones that are called as androgens, mainly the testosterone. And the androgens regulates the development, maturation, and function of the male accessory sex hormones or sex organs like epididymis, then vas deferens and seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and the urethra, and many. So these hormones stimulates the muscular growth of the facial and axillary hair, then aggressiveness, the low pitch of voice, etc. Then the androgen plays a major stimulatory role in the process of the spermatogenesis, which is called as the formation of the spermatozoa. Then androgens acts on the central nervous system and influence the male sexually behavior. And these hormones produces the anabolic, effect on the protein and carbohydrate uh, metabolism. Then we have as ovary, which is the female, which have a pair of the ovaries located in the abdomen, and their primary female sex organ, which produces one ovum during each menstrual cycle. In addition to it, this ovary also produces two group of steroid hormones that are called as estrogen and progesterone. So ovary is composed of the ovarian follicles and stromal tissues. These estrogen is synthesized and secreted mainly by the growing ovarian follicle. And after ovulation, then the rupture of this follicle is converted into structure where called as corpus luteum, which secretes mainly the progesterone. Then the estrogen produces the wide range actions such as stimulation of growth and activities of female secondary sex organs, development of growth ovarian follicle, then uh, appearance of the female secondary sex characters, high pitch of voice, etc., and the mammalian gland development. Then the estrogen also regulates the female sexual behavior. Then the progesterone supports the pregnancy. Then the progesterone also acts on the mammalian gland and stimulates the formation of the alveoli and the milk secretion. So later on, we have the mechanisms of how this hormone acts. So we have two things, that is the hormones that have been produced, their effect on a target tissue. So and binds to a specific proteins that are called as receptor, which is can be called as hormone receptor. And there will be certain hormones, right, that comes and binds to that specific receptor. We normally call them as hormone receptor complex. Clear? And each receptor is specific to one hormone only, and hence receptors are actually specified. So as a result, what happened on the basis of their chemical nature, hormones have been categorized or divided into groups such as peptide. Then we have polypeptide, then protein hormones such as insulin, glycogen, and pituitary hormones, hypothalamic hormones, and all. They all comes under this thing. Then we have a steroid. Steroids like cortisol, testosterone, and estrogen, and the progesterone. They all comes under steroid hormones. And we have what do you call that? Amino acid derivatives, and after amino acid derivatives like epipherenin, and we also do have the iodothyrosin, that is nothing but the thyroid hormones. So yeah, this is all about how hormones. So normally what happens is the hormones, say like FSH hormones, that comes and binds to a specific receptor which is on the ovarian cell membrane. So as a result, it will lead to a primary response, that is response one, and this response will generate the secondary messenger, that could be AMP cycle or calcium plus. So that will lead to a biochemical process, and later what happens, that stimulates the growth of the ovarian growth. So that is how we normally call it as the physiological response. So yeah, this is all about how the response normally happens. So basically, what happens is when our hormones interact, right, with the membrane bounded receptor, normally do not enter the target cell. Rather, it just becomes bind to it, forms a secondary messenger. So this in turns leads to a cellular metabolism, and as a result, that you are seeing, right. So hormones interactions will happen, and mostly which regulates the gene expression or the chromosomal function by interacting the hormone receptor complex with the genome level. And yeah, this is all about the what do you say that about our this thing, that is the chemical coordination and its integration. So regarding this, if you have any doubt, you can contact me through the message comment section or through the Telegram channel. And yes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you.